For most of the 1 o'clock games, we have to get there around 5 or 5:30. You never know what you're gonna have to do. Some mornings we just get on the bus and go, and the biggest worry on our minds is where to stop and get pizza. We might load 1 or 2 last minute things out of the storage area, but for the most part, people are just hopping on the bus, and as long as everybody's on time, we get rolling right away.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
There are some mornings where there's a little more activity, and there have been a couple times where we didn't necessarily know we were doing a halftime show, and then Bills call up and say, hey, we need a halftime show, so we got to load up some more gear. All good guys, so everything goes smoothly, everybody works together.
I got more.
What's that? Santa! I know him! Santa!
Is that Jim Carrey, Chris?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
The bus ride out there, it takes like 3.5 hours for us to get out there with all the stops and everything as well. So we try to leave Elbridge around 5:30. We get to the stadium usually by 9 o'clock, so depending on who's driving. If Cubby drives, then we're there by, 7:45. No problem.
We're getting 3 people.
Yeah.
Who wants to be my friend?
Once we arrive at the stadium, unload. It's pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
So we've got badges. We got to show it every single time we come in or out. They check everybody's bags. Any cases that we bring in, obviously, they're real careful about that stuff. There have been games, especially around like some of the more serious events that have happened, where they're worried about any increased violence at the stadium or anything like that, where they've had SWAT teams out, which has been a little crazy. It's secure. They make sure that everything's safe and that, we're taken care of, which is important. Everybody loads into the locker room. We're trying to get last minute uniform changes figured out, sizes switched out if we need to. It's nice to have the crew that we have because we really kind of break up and everybody starts taking care of different roles. You got Dan really kind of heading everything up and making sure the checklist, everything gets punched off. Cubby and I are trying to do uniforms. Eric will be trying to get drums tuned up and get hi-hats on. Luke Dennis is trying to get all the bass drums tuned up. We've got to make sure that the stands get set up with the drum stands and everything that goes into that. So, there are a lot of working parts.
So from the top all the way to tennis hole. Here we go.
Then we've got our typically anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour long rehearsal on the field.
Your first step is actually going to be behind and go around. But be people, you're going to take that first count and turn in place and then go.
There are some times where we don't need 45 minutes. If we've got a crew that, just did it the week before and it's the same exact pregame show, then, it's pretty much going through and we can actually take some time and maybe that day we actually warm up a little bit or at least a little more than we would normally.
We're gonna coordinate all the drill around hype pod. So if your drill spot is normally where a hype pod member is, don't go there, okay? We're gonna have to figure out where you go.
Say we have a halftime show, we've got to fit that same amount of material in. Those days are a little more chaotic because we have a plan collectively of what we're going to do in the halftime show, but a lot of the members have to learn that kind of on the fly, and they know all the material, but it's more of the puzzle, putting it together, and how you get to point A and point B. Point A, point B, but it's kind of putting it all together.
The leaf blower's out. Blow the lines. That might mean it's going to snow today.
Once rehearsal's over with and we've got time to make a quick pit stop back in the locker room if we need to grab anything. And then we're out to the lots, which I would guess everybody, certainly for me, is the highlight of the day. And that's where the most laughs are. That's where you get the most fan interaction.
About to go out in the lots, play for all the fans. Hopefully there's not too much ice so we fall and make fools of ourselves, but feeling pretty good about it. We'll get moving. Lots of fires. It's always nice to keep us warm. But, get people moving. Ready for the game.
So we break up into 2 groups. Got sneak attack, full frontal. The sneak attack group is the one that has most of the interaction. Really the face-to-face interaction, because we just weave in and out constantly between all the tailgaters, which is awesome. mean, that's definitely the highlight of the day. Sneak attack basically comes up behind the stadium and hits a lot of the big lots, where the full frontal basically hits the front of the stadium. They actually, most of the time, they'll hit the field house first, and then they kind of rope around to the front. Sneak attack and full frontal, we meet up in front of the stadium. It's probably the most traditional drumline thing that we do. We get in a big block and we play down Abbott Road, which is always cool. Hit a couple more people, but for the most part, we're just making our way back to the tunnel so we can get back into the locker room.
They got lobster over there.
I'm all about the ears now.
The Bills give us the freedom to do what we want to do for the halftime shows and pregame, which is awesome that they kind of trust us with that responsibility. Randall May provided us with internal microphones. These microphones, they sit inside the drums. The sound is isolated within the drum, and then everything is wireless, so the wireless pack is also on the drum. We're being broadcasted everywhere whenever we play.
Then once pre-game's done, we're out there, we create Stampede Row. So what every single team does in some form or another, making the tunnel for the team to come out, that's Stampede for Buffalo, which is pretty cool. So anytime that you see any of the player introductions or pictures from player introductions, I mean, that's us forming the tunnel for them to go out. Usually Dan and I we open up the gate for the players, it's pretty cool to be that close to them and kind of see some of the behind the scenes stuff that's going on. They're almost always like former players that are right there, so I'd say probably 70-80% of the time Jim Kelly's 5 feet from me when opening up the gates for everybody, so that stuff's always cool. Some of the little perks that maybe people wouldn't think about. And then once pre-game's done, player introductions are done, then we're headed up into the stands. And we've got front row tickets to every single home Bills game, which is awesome. Then we wait for the call to come down for us to play. We never know how much we're going to be able to play. We have sat entire games without playing a note in the stands. Because it's out of our control. A lot of times it's out of everybody's control. If the game flow is going in a certain way where the game's going quick, they have to make sure they get in all the sponsors and any kind of paid advertisement. So, we always want to play, but at the same time, you got to just be thinking that, it's out of our hands. They got to make sure they get through their checklist. So, we love playing because it gets the crowd going around us, and we're pretty big believers that anytime we play, the Bills score. So. If we're doing a halftime show, then usually right at the 2-minute warning or so, we try to make sure everybody's down on the field, and we always enter the field for halftime shows towards the back of the field, so we go out behind the visitors bench. Halftime shows are longer than pregame, and typically they're themed. So a lot of times we play like the Veterans Day themed show, so we try to put some more traditional rudimental drumming in that.
We can hit home that theme really well with the clip on the Jumbotron, and then the music we play, we try to reflect what that theme is the best we can.
If we do a halftime show, then typically some people go right back up in the stands for the start of the second half. Or if people want to, they can go in the locker room for a few minutes, grab a snack or something, because it is a long day. So if we show up there at 9, typically we don't leave until 5. By the time 4 or 5 minutes has gone by in the third quarter, everybody should be back out in the stands and ready to play. Game ends, you know, we wait for the teams to clear off for the most part, but then it's packing up, making sure everything gets taken care of, so all the drums go back in the locker room. That's where everything stays. You know, take care of whatever apparel needs to be taken care of, but for the most part, just pack up, clean up, get everybody out to the bus.
We're out of here.
Yeah. How did you?
We made it. It was a cold one, but we made it. Bills won 33-13. I think the Stampede had a big impact on how the game ended up. You know, I like to think that we hype the crowd and the crowd assists with the game as we move play to play. We had a good halftime show. I think we got a good response from the crowd. We'd like to hit the front side of the field and even give a little taste of the back side of the field. I think the fans really appreciate that. See ya. They always got real good food out here for the players.
Yeah.
I always want to just jump in line and see if anything happens.
Yeah, I'm a long snapper.
They got greens, beans, tomatoes, potatoes.
Traditionally, I cannot think of a time that we did not stop at Moe's. What you gotta understand is that, I mean, everyone would revolt on the bus if there wasn't a Moe's stop. So even when it makes sense to not make a Moe's stop, sometimes you just gotta make a Moe's stop.
Drop a couple of these Buffalo guys off, and then we're gonna head over to Moe's Southwest Grill, get a little bit of grub.
A lot of people have tried to bring drum corps or marching band and make it cool and sexy and bring it to a mainstream audience, and they failed time and time and time again because they've done it the same way it's always been done. There are a lot of drum lines doing this kind of stuff now. The idea of an entertainment drum line is really becoming a popular thing. We were really fortunate to get in on it toward the beginning of, the boom of the entertainment drum lines. So we're really excited to be, one of the founders of that idea, trying to push that as much as we can, bringing our activity to the mainstream as much as we can.
As you can see, our walk is pretty far to the bus.
Every year we want to bring something new and exciting to the table. We want the fans to have a different show every year. Every season they're going to get different stuff in the halftime shows and in the pregame shows and in the lots. There's a lot of new props coming, a lot of big surprises we're gonna pull out during some of the halftime shows for visually that I think are gonna be really cool and received really well by the fans. So we're really excited about what's to come, and it's up and onward from here.